Corporate Democrats have managed to chop up the budget reconciliation bill into something that's essentially unrecognizable, with cuts to paid family leave and 2 years of free community college completely being taken out of the bill. But there's more. Now they're considering doing away with Medicare expansion as well. And to be quite honest with you, all of this is predictable when you think about this system we're living under and how incentives and disincentives work. With that said, let me give you the latest details from Politico. Advocates and lobbyists said that a plan to expand Medicare with dental, vision, and hearing benefits for tens of millions of seniors, as well as a pitch to guarantee paid family and medical leave to all US workers, is now in danger of getting cut from the bill entirely. Let me just repeat that last word, because some people tend to have a difficult time understanding what that means. Cut from the bill entirely. Not, oh, maybe we'll cut a little bit of the funding. No, cut from the bill entirely, meaning that Medicare expansion would cease to exist in the final bill. Now, the party had originally pushed for scaled down versions of all its priorities, including temporary expansions of Medicaid, Medicare benefits, and Obamacare subsidies, after resistance from centrists in the House and Senate had forced the cutting of more than $1 trillion from the package. But cutting that $1 trillion from the package apparently wasn't good enough for corporate Democrats like Senator Joe Manchin or Senator Kyrsten Sinema. Speaker Nancy Pelosi and Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer have said that they want a deal by the end of the week. However, with all of these cuts, all of these concessions to the corporatist wing of the party, we still don't have a commitment from the likes of Manchin or Sinema. The proposed new Medicare benefits have always been vulnerable, writes Politico, given a wave of lobbying against them from the healthcare industry. Those lobbying against the Sanders-backed expansion include private insurance companies and dentists, whose precious profits would take a hit if more seniors enrolled in traditional Medicare and didn't have to buy supplemental private plans to cover their dentures, hearing aids, and glasses. So again, Biden, let me just be very clear on this, okay? Biden has not used any sticks. He has not threatened any type of consequences or punishment toward Manchin or Sinema. All he's done is passed out carrots. Manchin, I'm gonna give your wife the job that she wants within the federal government. Manchin, I'm gonna give you all the concessions you want. And Manchin, along with Sinema, has succeeded in completely destroying this piece of legislation. But while it might be easy to blame Manchin and Sinema, and believe me, there's a lot of blame to go around, I think that really the heart of this issue is the insane weakness and cowardice that we saw from Joe Biden. The real question is, what are progressives planning on doing? And now, Cenk, why don't you take it away?
Yeah, so don't get us wrong, it's about to get way worse. Anna's got more details on parts they're taking out, and they're pretty much gutting the entire thing. So hold on for more devastating details. So look, the bill is so gutted at this point that if I was advising the progressives, I would tell them to vote no.
Yeah, same.
So because at some point, half a loaf isn't.
It's not even half a loaf.
Guys, look, that's the proverbial saying that people put out there. But when you look at the details, for progressives, it's almost no loaf at all. The rest of it is just corporate gobbledygook. And so it'll make it look like half the loaf, but they've really taken almost everything we wanted out of the bill. So then why vote yes? And the answer is because you don't want to get yelled at. And that's a really, really bad answer. So there's, oh, well, Democratic unity. Well, Manchin and Sinema don't seem to care about Democratic unity at all.
They also don't seem to care about getting yelled at by their own constituents.
Yeah, they don't care at all. So, and look, there's a reason for that. It's not because they're more courageous. It's because their source of power comes from corporate cash. And their corporate donors have told them, we don't want any of those progressive positions. That affects our taxes, and we don't want to pay for any of it. So Manchin at one point in the Democratic caucus looked at Bernie Sanders and the rest of the caucus and said, I am happy to have zero in this bill. And he made a hand motion apparently and basically said, kill the bill, I don't care, because my donors have told me to kill the goddamn bill if you need to. But if you're not gonna kill it, make sure there's barely anything in it. And so then if you're gonna draw the line like that, progressives also have to draw the line. Otherwise, just as a matter of simple negotiations. There's no ands, ifs, or buts about this. The progressives, if they do not draw the line, will get steamrolled.
That's right.
And that's what we're definitely in the middle of right now.
Right, look, the precedent thus far has been that progressives will get pressured and cave into the demands of the corporate Democrats.
Yep.
That is the precedent. Right now, for the first time, progressives have a bloc that could actually flex power. Now, corporate Democrats are used to the precedent. They do not believe that progressives would really flex their power once push comes to shove. And to be sure, there's gonna be a tremendous amount of pressure for progressives to play ball. And yes, I think that Pramila Jayapal is gonna have an incredibly difficult time keeping her caucus together on this issue, right? But with that said, I mean, with that said though, we don't need every single progressive in the progressive caucus to be unified in response to this. We just need enough progressives to block the bipartisan infrastructure bill and refuse to vote in favor of this bill, of the budget reconciliation bill, unless it actually has the provisions that matter. Based on what we're reading today, it will not have the provisions that matter. It will not have Medicare expansion, despite the fact that Senator Bernie Sanders, chair of the Senate Budget Committee, claims that he won't stand for it. It will absolutely be included. But as the negotiations stand today, Biden's like, whatever you want, Manchin, I'll cut it, right? As long as you vote in favor of it. And even with these concessions, Manchin is still not committed to voting in favor of it. I'm sorry, the bipartisan infrastructure bill is garbage. It privatizes public infrastructure. We don't want it. Okay, I don't care about its passage. In fact, I would very much like it to not pass. The reconciliation bill, as it stands today, with all those cuts, doesn't go nearly far enough. Half a loaf, it's not even a quarter of a loaf. They've cut out all the important provisions. There's more. So if we're not gonna get anything in return for privatizing public infrastructure, I'm sorry, they need to defeat both bills, period. Yes, they're gonna get a lot of negative commentary from the corporate media, but it's far better than passing both pieces of legislation that don't do nearly enough to improve people's lives and then sit through the corporate media along with corporate Democrats telling us over and over again how successful they are, how unprecedented this is, how much it's going to improve people's lives, when in reality it's gonna do the opposite. Okay, privatizing public infrastructure is gonna be a complete and utter disaster. It is nothing more than a way of, again, redistributing wealth from the bottom to the top, because you have corporations who are gonna manage public infrastructure that's now been privatized, and they're gonna implement all sorts of tolls and fees. It's gonna become more expensive for American workers to get around. That's what the outcome of that bill is gonna be at the end of the day. Let's just keep it real.
So now, this is super important, guys. If the progressives wait till the so-called deal is announced, then they say they're gonna vote no, then they will get all of the blame. You have to do what Manchin and Sinema are doing now. You have to say no now, not later. So that is why, look, I'd love to give them credit when they deserve it, and at different parts of this, they have greatly deserved the credit. You have to be open-minded, and saying one size fits all makes no sense. Either I hate progressive leadership, I love progressive leadership. No, you have to use your mind and use your judgment. So when they said, no, we will not vote for the corporate bipartisan bill, without first voting for this bill, that was great, and we gave them all the credit in the world. That is correct negotiation, and look, it's kept us in the ball game. But now when Jayapal leaves a meeting with President Biden, and Biden says, I'm gonna gut most of this stuff, and she does nothing but overflowing praise for Biden. I read that a couple days ago and I thought, we're screwed. Well, and then every part of them, including progressive leadership, has not clearly delineated what is a red line for them. So for example, they said no climate, no deal. We talked about it on the Power Hour with Nina Turner last week. Ed Markey seemed to be drawing a line in the sand. Now all of a sudden, that line has disappeared. And there is no line in the sand. If there's no line in the sand for progressives, they will lose on every single issue.
In fact,
this is the fact.
In fact, regarding the climate provisions, already the most important provision is on the chopping block. Let's go to graphic 5 here. Senator Manchin has told the White House that he strongly opposes the clean electricity program. As a result, White House staffers are now rewriting the legislation without that climate provision and are trying to cobble together a mix of other policies that could also cut emissions. By the way, Senator Kyrsten Sinema didn't want to raise taxes on corporations, and guess what? That's been cut out of the bill. as one of the major pay-fors. So no tax increases on corporations. We're hearing a bunch of nonsense from Democratic lawmakers about like, oh, maybe we'll replace it with some sort of wealth tax. You're not gonna replace it with any kind of tax increase on the rich. Let's just keep it real. I'm tired of them pretending as if, no, but this is a priority of ours. We're gonna make sure. No, you have lawmakers, you have the president of the United States who ran on reversing Trump's tax cuts for the rich. And now something as simple as increasing corporate taxes, not back to 35% as they were prior to the Trump era taxes, but raising it to even 25%, not gonna do it, sorry, because precious cinema isn't gonna have it.
Yeah, guys, if you hear any promise, including from progressives, that, oh, don't worry, Biden gave us a promise to come back to this later, understand that that's a joke.
It's a lie.
Okay,
it's worse than a joke, it's a lie.
Yeah, if they actually believe that, then I feel even more sorry, because that means you're the suckers at the table. Nobody's coming back to any of this. This is it. If they can't put it in this bill, they're not gonna be able to pass a standalone bill. On which planet do you live? No, that means you don't understand politics if you say something as childish as that. Okay, nobody's going back to a goddamn thing, okay? Now, it's so easy to call out 1,000 of these things. Manchin, you say you're worried about adding to the deficit. Well, great, it's not gonna add to the deficit because we're gonna increase corporate taxes to pay for it. Well, you say you don't wanna increase corporate taxes. Well, you can't have it both ways. Which one is it? Do you wanna add it to the deficit or do you wanna increase corporate taxes? Make him answer the question. But no one challenges him publicly on that. Certainly Biden doesn't, he doesn't put any pressure on him. And if without sticks, he's gonna run roughshod over this thing. Are there still provisions in here that are a little bit helpful? Sure, there's like electric charging stations for electric cars. That's really good. No, and helping the energy infrastructure.
Just like FDR.
No, hold on, and helping the energy infrastructure in this country and have a better energy grid, yes. But you can't hang your hat on the usual Obama 5% change. You just can't. And they're doing it now, they're getting steamrolled. And they need strong leadership desperately, and it doesn't look like they have it at this point.
Here's what I'm not interested in doing, okay? I'm not interested in joining the cheerleading that we're now seeing from Democrats like Speaker Nancy Pelosi, okay? Who's already doing her part in positive PR for a bill that is unrecognizable at this point. Remember the 12 months of paid family leave that was proposed by Biden originally? That got cut down to only 4 weeks, and now we're learning that 4 weeks, we don't wanna make that permanent. We'll make it expire in 3 to 4 years. Think about that for a second, okay? They also, as I mentioned, are doing away with the major climate provisions that are necessary, not just for their political futures, who cares about that? For the future of humanity here on Earth, okay? They've taken that out because Manchin's got to profit from fossil fuels. He's got his personal investments in the fossil fuel industry. We can't mess with that. That's very, very important. Also, lots of scaled down versions of things that they were bragging about doing earlier, either completely cut out or scaled down, as I mentioned. Universal pre-K. That so far doesn't seem like it's gonna get cut, but understand why. That serves business interests. If business interests can avoid paying higher taxes while ensuring that public money goes into pre-K, that means that more mothers, more fathers are freed up to go to work. They can go back to the mines. That's why they haven't attacked that. But everything else that would actually materially improve Americans' lives, either on the chopping block, completely gone, or it's been scaled back so much and means tested so much that it's unlikely to have a major impact on Americans' lives. And with that said, with all of those cuts, you have Nancy Pelosi speaking to Jake Tapper over the weekend to brag about how wonderful this bill is, even with everything stripped out of it. Watch.
We had the rescue package, $1.9 trillion. We have the infrastructure bill over $1 trillion. That's around $3 trillion, and we'll have this at $2 trillion. Nobody has done anything that remarkable. So while it isn't everything that was put out originally, it takes us down a path where we can continue investments in these. Now, this piece, the care piece, I did the climate, health, the care piece is all three of them make it transformative for America's working families.
It is a big bill.
It's a very big bill.
It would accomplish a lot.
Even at half, it's a very big bill.
It's not transformative. It's not transformative. First of all, the rescue package, they're still bragging about passing coronavirus relief during a pandemic where people were forced to go home, where businesses were forced to shut down. Oh, wow, we sent everybody a few checks here and there that did not in any way recover the amount of money they would have been making if they were working. But hey, transformative, it was transformative. Please don't bring up the infrastructure deal, which is a corporate handout bill and nothing more than that. And then, you want to brag about this reconciliation bill. You've taken everything that matters out of it.
So that little clip was enormously telling. Number one, Nancy Pelosi's points that she made is indistinguishable from what Joe Manchin is saying publicly. She said, oh, we already did this trillion and that trillion, and this is already a lot of money. That's exactly what Manchin says. And then Jake Tapper, if you noticed, then jumps in as the corporate media cheerleader that he is and goes, oh, it's a big bill. It's already a big bill. I mean, you wouldn't want to do any of the things that are progressive in there. So what are we talking about? And by the way, when we say progressive, I don't want you to get the wrong idea because of corporate media. It's things that anywhere from 2/3 to 90% of the country agrees with. Yes, that's the percentage that agrees with progressives. You'll never see that. Okay. So what am I talking about? So first of all, on paid family leave, do you know how brutal we are as a country? Just real quick summary, these are the only other countries in the world that don't have paid family leave. Marshall Islands, Micronesia, Nauru, Palau, Papua New Guinea, Suriname, and the island nation of Tonga. And the United States of America. Every other nation on earth has paid family leave. To be fair, there was one other country out of the 185 that offers less than 4 weeks, and we're now at 4 weeks if those negotiations go through, and that's the law, and it's only for a part of the time. So we would be right around the same ballpark as Eswatini. That used to be Swaziland, it's now Eswatini. So congratulations to us. You know what the average is for the rest of the world? For when you have a kid, 29 weeks of leave. And we're now down to maybe 4 weeks.
But it has to expire, Jake.
And it has to expire.
It has to expire, can't be permanent.
So now what percentage of Americans want paid family leave? A gigantic percentage, over 70%, okay? Now, how about negotiating drug prices? They're taking that out. It is indefensible to take that out. Indefensible. 90% of the country wants that provision in. Have you ever seen 90% on any issue? Oh, look, they say, oh, we're so divided, we're so divided. No, almost all the Republicans agree with Democrats, agree with AOC and the progressives that they want to negotiate drug prices. It's insane not to. We're the only country in the world. Even Eswatini doesn't do that. We're the only ones who say, oh, drug companies, you can charge us anything you want. That's insane. And yet, it's gonna be taken out. And by the way, why is it taken out? Because our country is under corporate rule, and corporations do not consent to paying 1 red cent more, and they will crush you and grind you down. By the way, right wing, if you're mad about that, you're right. You should be mad about that. And what do you think these corporate Democrats and corporate Republicans are agreeing to? They're agreeing to corporate rule. By the way, yes, we blame Biden and Manchin and Sinema and Democratic leadership, but remember, they couldn't do any of that without every single Republican politician in Congress saying, hell no, I would never give anything to the American people, never.
Right.
Corporations must have everything.
Well, look, Democrats are supposed to differentiate themselves from Republicans. They certainly do in the rhetoric they use in their campaigns. Actions speak louder than words. Actions would have me believe, at least, that corporate Democrats really on these big issues are no different than Republicans. Just keeping it real.
On economic issues, they're about to prove it. They could prove us wrong. They could pass something that's meaningful. But if they don't, then yes, the great majority of the Democratic Party on economic issues agrees with all of the Republicans that corporations should rule us all. We should pay for everything and they should pay for nothing. Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.